Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Alicia Gogan, the host of the Globe Secrets podcast, where I help you expand your mind and become more self-aware so that you can glow up into the best version of yourself. Hello, happy Sunday. If you're listening on a Sunday, which you probably are because I know you love the Sunday episodes, which we have a new little series, a fun series that is exciting, and it will be specific to Sundays. But real quick, last week, I didn't post because I was sick, so you might hear it a little bit in my voice. I'm doing much better now, but we came down with a head cold. We came down with a little bit of a fever. I'm honestly not surprised. My body and my mind and my life went through it this past season, and I think that fever head cold was like the last hurrah. Now, when I get sick, and I really want to know if this happens to any of you guys, so leave it in the comments or on Spotify, you can leave your comments. But does anyone else have a full-blown death and rebirth when they get sick, where maybe when you're not completely down bad and you're sleeping off your cold and flu, but you're still in bed and you're feeling a little bit better, but you still can't really do things, you start to get this new rebirth energy. You want to like rebrand your life. So many things become clear to you. You see all the things that weren't working. You're like thinking about the future and being like, oh, okay, like this is my new era. This is what I'm going to do when I feel better. That's typically what I always do when I'm sick. Naturally, it's not even that I even try and force it. It's just a natural thing. I think just being down bad for a while, you tend to think about who you want to be after you're sick. And so one of the things that came up was this new idea for the podcast. So I want to start this series called the Soulful Sunday Reset. And where this really came is, for one, every Sunday I've been posting an episode, and you guys know that I go through seasons of sometimes posting on a specific day, and then sometimes like last summer I decided it's feeling a little bit too rigid. I'm just going to start posting whenever I feel called to, and then I would just drop an episode whenever, and that worked as well. I think naturally going into the winter months, I didn't have much going on, so I felt good about having a specific day that I would upload and it would give me enough time. And also I felt like my life was slowing down, and when my life slows down, sometimes like I don't have a lot of ideas or a lot of content or a lot of things to say. So I felt like the Sunday episodes were really good. But there's something about a Sunday episode that feels so refreshing. Like I've heard such good feedback from you guys about this feeling and this idea that waking up on a Sunday morning, you have your coffee, or maybe you're doing your Sunday reset and you're cleaning and you're listening to the podcast episode. It gives you a, mental health refresh type of energy. To me, it feels really good and expansive. And I even said this in one of my last episodes. It's giving kind of like an Oprah Winfrey type of show where every Sunday you're just like watching something that really makes you prepared for the week or changes your mindset about something. And I really want to keep that energy for you guys. And in my own life, I have started to realize that I need to start inviting more of that energy into my Sundays as well. Like obviously I record the podcast episodes and I post it for you guys, but I'm not necessarily experiencing it the same way you guys are. Like maybe you guys are having your Sunday reset and you're sitting down having your coffee, this, that. But I don't really have that routine for myself. And so with that, I was thinking about how typically when I do record my podcast episodes, I like to have a clear mind. I like to journal usually before, because I typically will record an episode pretty early in the morning. So I'll have my breakfast, I'll go on a walk, or I'll do a workout, and then I like to have my coffee. And then I'll usually journal and think about what I want to bring to the podcast episode. Usually I have an idea, like a theme that I've either thought about or I was going through or I just felt the need to talk about on the podcast. So I'm just kind of renewing my mind about what I want to be bringing to the podcast, and then I typically will record. Now, it's not to say that that doesn't work, and I will actually continue to do those type of episodes even as I do this Sunday Reset series, but those episodes are just going to be more sporadic. I'm just going to record the episodes whenever I feel, but I want this series to be a little bit different. I want this series to be something that you look forward to every Sunday to get your mind right and to reset your mind based off of what I'm going to be talking about and sharing. But I also want this to be something where even after the episode, you take at least an hour out of your day, regardless if you have a fun Sunday planned ahead. And even if you don't do this on Sunday, that it's fine. But you take one moment out of the week to really be intentional and sit and reflect and refocus your mindset and your energy and think about what you want to bring into the week to come. And also reflecting on what was working, what wasn't, the cycles that you might have been going through, things like that. And the reason why I think that that's important is because I also haven't been really doing that much, like for my own life, really sitting down and reflecting and, what energy do I want to bring into the week to come and things like that. I just haven't been too intentional with that. And I want to do that at least once a week. So I figured, why don't I sit down with myself, come up with some prompts, come up with some things that I want to think about. I'll journal on it and then I'll bring it to you guys because that's basically what I do for the podcast. And, every week there's going to be a new theme, a new topic. And every time I bring something to you guys probably learned something. But then of course, this is really an invitation for you to do the same for your own self by grabbing your journal. This is the journal that I have right now if you're watching on YouTube, and take a second and really reset your soul, your mind, your body, your everything. And if you guys are OG listeners, then you know that I used to have off-topic episodes along with the podcast episodes that were a specific topic. So this series will be kind of like those off-topic episodes, but think more evolved. So right now, and this might change, but for the episodes, we have two main things that I want to focus on. I want to focus on what I have called the weekly unwind and the energetic forecast. And the energetic forecast is really what I want us to always be holding on to every Sunday or whatever day of the week, because I think that this is really going to change a lot for us moving into the new season, which soon we're going to be into spring. Okay. I'm so excited for spring. I need it. I'm sorry, but I need it. But with all that said, I also just want you guys to feel more connected to me. And I know you guys do for the most part, because I'm always sharing just personal life stories within my podcast episodes. But I feel like having something weekly, it's not about updating you on everything about my life that's like really random, but I think that this could help not only you guys doing things and working through cycles and habits, even if it's not the same as me. I think doing it alongside somebody in this capacity is helpful. And I also think for me, it gives me a lot of accountability. So let's get into it. The first segment is the weekly unwind. So this is really all about reflecting on the past week. And I don't know, maybe this is a Scorpio thing. This is just an Alicia thing. This is a life thing. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, but I feel like I do genuinely go through 12 deaths and rebirths in 1 week. Like I learn sometimes way too many lessons to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go out into the world and I need to just detach. But I digress. There has been a lot of things that I was able to reflect on. So I actually came up with 3 journal prompts. So I'm going to read out the prompts and then I'm going to tell you what I journaled, but I'm also going to have them popped up on the screen so that you guys can take these journal prompts and after the episode or whenever you want, you can journal and do it yourself. So for the weekly unwind, the first journal prompt is: what reoccurring emotion or situation showed up for me this week, and what does it reveal about a deeper belief or pattern I'm still working through? So for me, what I ended up journaling was I had a lot of self-judgment. I really experienced a lot of self-judgment this week in terms of my financial life, thinking that I'm always, when I think about my financial situation, how I'm always technically like doing the wrong thing, or that other people are doing it better than me just because they're doing it differently. And this is so deep, guys. This is seriously so deep. This is a belief that I've always carried with me. And this is outside of my financial life. It just so happened that this past week, there was a lot of financial things that I was changing about my, like the way that I make money and things like that. And I had to take a lot of, not risks, that's not the word. I had to take, I wanted to, actually, nobody was pushing me to do it. I wanted to take this step forward in a different direction with some of the ways that I currently make money and kind of like take more control and power back with myself. But of course, anytime you try and step out of a comfort zone, you're going to have fears and you're going to have your limiting beliefs come up. But there has always been a theme for me in my life of thinking that everyone else has either the right answer or they're doing it better, not better than me, but for some reason I'm doing it wrong and they're doing it right. And mind you, I've worked through a lot of this in a lot of different areas of my life, but definitely the belief is still there a lot with finances, because I think that is one of the last things that I've still had to really dismember a lot of certain beliefs. And I've gotten such a far way, like truly such a far way. And I'm proud of myself for that, but there's still those underlying things. And that comes from a lot of places. It comes from, one, being a child who was raised around a lot of people, places, and things where there was more abundance maybe for these people over here, but not so much for me. So I always would think that I wasn't deserving of money or things or experiences, and that these people were, just because like I lived in a family who just didn't have that much money. And we weren't like super, 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 super poor, but we were absolutely lower class. Like we would go to food banks and we did paycheck to paycheck, like absolutely just didn't have a lot of money. So I always just felt that people had more, and the more that these people had over here, it was like meant for them and not for me. Like I wasn't comfortable with any sort of abundance because I just felt like I wasn't allowed that. Like it wasn't for me. Like money wasn't for me. I also was raised by a father who was very dominant, and he made all the rules, of course, typically, like that's what your parents do. But I was really trained to follow the rules and do everything that was right. And so I kind of moved through life always naturally thinking that everyone else is like above me, because that's just kind of how I learned a lot of things. Like my dad was overpowering and he was like the rules, and there was not a lot of choice. So naturally, just like I felt like, even if I wanted to do something, that I was wrong for wanting to do that thing, or I wasn't allowed to do that thing. Like I was not allowed to have a lot of autonomy. And so when it comes to something, even like finances, when you're navigating things or you want to take a risk, or not even a risk, but you just want to do something different, or you're doing something different, or you're on a different timeline than other people, sometimes that tracks in my nervous system and in my brain as I'm just doing it wrong and I'm a bad person and this is not how I should have done it and I made a mistake and I shouldn't have done it like that, which is not the truth. And so what I had to tell myself this past week was, for one, especially when it comes to your finances, but with anything in life, truly, with love, with success, anything, everyone's on their different timelines. And so there's not a point to compare, which I don't really compare. Like I've learned to understand that I don't need to compare, like especially my finances with other people. Like it is what it is. But the sense of, the way somebody manages their money versus yours, like you're on your own timeline. So we're not going to berate ourselves and say that we're doing it wrong. We're just doing it on our timeline. And also, you don't have to get mad at yourself for making certain decisions based out of what you knew at the time or what worked for you. Like just because this person over here probably wouldn't have done it like that doesn't mean that your decision to do it like this or slower or in this way or to get help over here in this capacity was the wrong decision for you. And I really do think about some of the things that I've had to do with my financial life was based off of limited knowledge or feeling afraid. And I felt like I needed help over here in this capacity, which maybe meant that I wasn't going to be making as much money because I had to pay people over here to help me or something like that, versus this person over here did it a different way. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong or bad or that I'm inherently like just on the wrong path because that's what I did. And then the next prompt asks, where did I feel the most resistance this week, and what truth might I be avoiding or afraid to acknowledge? And for me, I think it was my fear of change. And this also was tied to my financial life, which definitely can bring up a lot of fear more than most things in my life. Like most areas in my life, I'm pretty good with change. And I felt the most resistance to taking action towards something that I knew was the right decision. I've been thinking about this decision for so long, but I was still afraid of change because, it doesn't even matter if the thing is not serving you anymore. It feels comfortable. So instantly it's going to feel a little bit like, oh, I don't want to do it. But what I did was I just kept reminding myself of all of the pros of me actually changing versus staying the same. Like changing is definitely uncomfortable, but staying the same when you know that this thing is not serving you anymore, it doesn't make sense. But what you have to do sometimes is you have to seriously sit down and remind yourself of that. So anytime the fear comes up, instead of you allowing that fear to keep you small, because that's what we'll do, right? Like I've been saying in some of my past episodes, fear speaks loud and first, but that is not your truth, and you don't have to listen to it, but you have to know that is what's going to come up first. And so I realized, okay, my fear is speaking loud right now. My fear is saying, okay, like let's not take action. Let's put it off. We don't need to do it, this, that. Okay, no, that's just my fear. And what the truth is with this situation is I know that this is the best decision for me. I know this is going to lead me down the road to so many more opportunities. And that's what I had to keep my focus on, is reminding myself of how good this will feel once I do this and what this change will bring me in terms of positivity. And this is the thing, we're so focused on the negative side of what change could bring, which is usually just in the moment feeling uncomfortable or having to have a conversation that might be uncomfortable. You have to let somebody down, or you have to say something that I'm sure that maybe these people don't want to hear, and this, that. But the actual pros and the benefits of that change are exponential, but we just don't even want to tap into it. We don't even take the time to sit there and think about it. And so I just did so much journaling, and I just kept remembering and feeling into the feeling of what it's going to feel like when I do this change and how prosperous I'm going to be. This is specifically with my finances. And of course, when I took that action, which I knew anytime that I'm feeling afraid is when it actually requires the most action. When I took that action, lo and behold, I felt so not even just good, but powerful. I felt like I took a big, energetic part of my life back into my own hands just by simply facing a fear and taking action. Okay, the last question for the weekly unwind is, what is something I handled well this week, even if I didn't give myself credit for at the time? I think this is a great prompt because we typically don't do this a lot. When we accomplish something or when we get something done, we're just on to the next thing. We're on to finding another problem or another thing that we want to fix. So what I journaled is I actually was really proud of how I handled my fear. So I knew I had a lot of fear with this decision that I had to make and actually take action on, because I kept saying that I wanted to do it and I kept talking about it. And I knew that if I kept talking about it, it was going to have to happen, which is actually a good thing. At least that's what I do. If I keep talking about it and I keep telling people, that's going to trap me into having to actually do it, which is good for me. But I knew I had a lot of fear, and I was actually really graceful to myself. I was actually really understanding, and I spent a lot of time acknowledging that fear and really dissecting it and asking myself and seeing like, okay, this is deeper here right now, like I'm feeling resistance. I'm seeing myself procrastinate this thing. Let me go into it right now instead of getting super mad at myself, even though, did I judge myself at the beginning of this thing manifesting? Absolutely. But then I dove into it and I was like, no, I don't need to judge myself. I don't need to be afraid. And if I'm afraid, let me see why I'm afraid right now. And I did give myself a little bit of time. I didn't completely push myself into an action that I was afraid of doing before I was quote unquote ready. Like obviously you're never going to be fully ready, and I wasn't really fully ready, but I did allow myself a little bit of a grace period. So I'm really proud of myself for how I handled my fear. But also, I'm very proud of myself for taking that action and taking control over a big piece of my financial life that I have been putting off for quite a bit, honestly. Like this is definitely something that I've been saying that I was going to want to do, and I just didn't want to deal with it. It's just easier to stay with what I'm doing and how everything is working. It wasn't like things weren't working, but realistically, making change will actually change your life for the better. That's why it's called change. So anyways, those are the 3 prompts for the weekly unwind. I think that I had a really good breakthrough this week, and I'm really happy with it. Now let's move into the energetic forecast. There's something about those 2 words. And the reason why I named this segment like this is I would rather focus on the energy and the intentions and how I want to feel versus just writing down all the things that I have to do, because instantly those two things feel very different, and one feels like there's a lot of flow and a lot of natural wanting to do things, versus the other energy feels like, I don't want to really do this and I want to put this off, and then I feel myself wanting to procrastinate those things for no reason, so it really is important, the intention that you have behind something. So the energetics of things, and also forecasting, thinking about the week ahead or even like the month ahead, right? But forecasting is not something that's set in stone. So again, we have 3 prompts. And the first prompt is, how do I want the energy of this week to feel? And what emotions or intentions do I want to carry with me? And this is really the soul of the Sunday reset, right? Like, I want us all to really sit here and be intentional and really think, how do we want this week to go? Instead of just rolling into the week every single week with no intention, no real, it's not even about plan, but the vibes of the week. Like, let's do more of that, right? I really want us to kind of bring that energy into the new week. So I was journaling on it, and I wrote, I wanted to feel like spring and summer of 2023. And I put in brackets, it didn't feel like a Monday to Friday work week. And I also wrote plus less pre-planning, and this is specifically to content. And I also wrote, I want to feel expansive. I want to feel less rigid and more airy and just more in flow again. And let's just bring it back to like what I mean by what I want it to feel like. I have been obsessed with watching my vlogs on my main channel from spring and summer 2023, and I felt like every day was summer, okay? And the reason why I know like that's just how it felt was I wasn't creating, this is going to be specific to content creation, I guess, but I wasn't creating out of this place of constant planning every single idea or every single move I was making or what day I needed to do it on. And I think that is why I was in such a good era and a good flow, and why so many things even worked, is because I was allowing myself to feel into what I was feeling first and then create from that place. And a lot of things come from that place that are just so expansive and so transformative, especially with my type of content. Like when I have a really exciting idea, or I all of a sudden like went through this death and rebirth and now I want to make a video out of that, like creating from that place always is just amazing. And I know not everyone is a content creator, so I know this might not resonate to everyone, but for the most part, when you act out of that natural motivation to do something, isn't it just such a great, like, it just feels like it's not even a hard thing. Like, sometimes even when you have the motivation and you have the energy all of a sudden randomly on like a Tuesday afternoon to go to a workout class or to go on a walk and it wasn't planned, how good that feels. It feels so much different than you planning every single thing. And I know we can't not plan everything, but for me, I'm just trying to have a little less of this pre-planning energy and just reminding myself that I do and will get things done. And when I am not putting constant stress and these things that I have to do on my like mind and my to-do list and things like that, I naturally get so much more done anyways. I am not somebody who sits around and doesn't do anything, and I just become super lazy if I don't demand of myself to do 100 million things and overwhelm my mind. I really don't, for the most part. And honestly, you guys are probably the same. Like, you don't need to constantly tell yourself to do every little micro thing and micromanage your life. You have the ability, and you should have the confidence within yourself to know that you're going to get up and go do the things that you need to do. Like, you don't need to constantly sit here every single hour of the day writing in your planner, 7:14 you're gonna need to get up at this time, and then at 7:20 you must get into the shower, and then 7:25 if you're not brushing your teeth, and it's gonna be the end of the world. Like, we don't really need to do so much micromanaging. And I just think that is half the reason why we always just push things off, or we feel so resistant, or we feel Sunday scaries, or we just are not motivated to do things because we're constantly putting way too much. And it's just the energy behind things is just in my personal opinion, ridiculous. It's just not needed. And I also see this when it comes to plans and socializing. I kind of do the same thing sometimes where I get really rigid with being like, okay, next weekend, well, every weekend I have off, quote unquote off because I work for myself, but next weekend I don't really have to do anything when it comes to work. So I'm going to do this one plan at this time with this friend. But sometimes plans change, and also the pre-planning too much in advance, as much as I think that the type A personality of me who likes to control would like that, it ends up overwhelming who I actually am as a soul and as a spirit. And it just, I know, like, I'm so tapped in with my spirit that I just know that, like, it's just not needed. It's really not needed. Like, you can go a little bit more with the flow. Okay. Now the next prompt is, what do I want to accomplish this week and why does it matter to me? I think it's really important to ask yourself why things matter to you versus, again, just coming up with this to-do list of all these things to do. I think this also helps with the energetics and the intentions behind things. Like, why am I telling myself that I have to do 800 things? Mind you, will you actually get the 800 things done? Probably not. So can we just be more intentional so that way we don't have to overwhelm ourselves and then judge ourselves when we don't get all these things done, when realistically they were not even meant to be on our to-do list anyways, you know what I mean? So I wrote, for one, which I kind of already talked about, creating from a place of alignment and readiness, because that's really where I feel the best content, and this is my job, the best content comes from when I'm vlogging and I'm in this specific era, I'm going through a specific thing and I'm vlogging out of that place versus pre-planning and being like, oh, this is a good idea. And technically I am going to be living this out, so I could vlog this. But I actually do better. It feels better in my nervous system where I kind of live more of my life and then I recognize, oh, okay, I'm kind of going through this new era right now. I'm in my healthy girl era, or I'm romanticizing my life right now. Let me make a video on this since I'm doing it. There's two different ways in which you can create. And I do actually a really good job of that when it comes to the podcast. I feel like I've nailed that down. But with vlogging, sometimes I go back and forth with that. So that's my goal and intention when it comes to content, because again, that is my job. And another thing that I want to focus on is going back to hot yoga classes. And the reason why this is really important to me is because this is something that I know really has made me feel so good in the past. But this is a hot yoga class. I don't know if you guys remember. Oh my gosh. But this is not the hot yoga classes that I was doing before my flare up at this new gym that I joined, which I think that I'm going to cancel that membership because I just think it's out of alignment. But these were these hot yoga classes where I was drenched. It's Bikram yoga, so it's the same 26 poses. You do the same thing every single time, and it's extremely hot, and you sweat and this, that. And I stopped going for multiple reasons, but when I think about those classes again, I can feel within myself that I'm ready to go back to those. I am so ready to go back to those. Oh my gosh, it's an unreal feeling. It makes you feel so strong. Sweating is amazing. It's just, oh my gosh, I just miss, like, I'm ready. So my goal is to go to one of them, just one, whenever I'm feeling like it this week, because I can feel within my soul that I'm ready to go and do that. And that's just the best time to do anything. And again, why that's important to me is simply because how I feel is important to me. I want to just feel good. I don't want to tell myself how I'm going to feel. I don't want to pre-plan how I'm going to feel. I want to do things when I feel them, which I know can be difficult, especially when you actually have to go into a job or this, that. But there's so many pockets of time where you could actually do the things that you feel like doing versus the things you keep telling yourself to do, and then you don't end up doing them. Now, the last prompt is, what is the affirmation or mantra that I need to remind myself of this week to stay focused, inspired, and aligned with my goals? Now, this is actually something that I've kind of been coming back to. And if you don't believe in God, then you could probably switch this out if this is what you want to use. But again, totally journal on this and you'll probably come up with your own thing. And I think that you shouldn't just, you don't have to like do exactly what I'm doing, but this could be helpful for you guys. But if you don't believe in God, you can think about the universe, or you can even think about somebody who you really look up to. But for me, it's God, and I really do use God and the universe interchangeably. I kind of look at it as that. But in the times where I feel fear come up, or I'm second guessing things, or I'm not taking action, or I'm judging myself or whatever, I always like to ask myself, what would God do in this moment? And I have a few other ones that I'm just going to read them out. What would God say to me right now if I was discerning on whether I should post my YouTube video now or post it later? And I know that's kind of silly, but sometimes I was thinking about this the other day. I had a video ready and I was like, should I post it tonight or should I post it tomorrow in the morning at this time? Like, what would be the best time for my audience to see this? And now I have a range of times where like everyone who watches me is all around the world. So I can't post at a specific time for every single person, right? And so I was going back and forth and I started to realize like I'm overthinking this. This is not what I need to do. And like, this is like scarcity energy. And like, why am I doing this? And so I asked myself, well, what would God have me do? Would God want me to stay in my perfectionist mindset and be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to have it on this day at this time, because that's really what that was. It was just my perfectionist part wanting to do it. And it's not to say that it's not wrong to have a certain day and time to post something, but because the video was already done, I was kind of getting in my own way. And I was like, oh, I just want to stay in my perfectionist mindset. But what would God have me do? And what really came up for me was God would want you guys to have my message as soon as possible, because that's really what this video was. Like, all my videos are basically that, right? So who am I to withhold my gift, my purpose, my whatever I'm putting out into the world? Who am I to withhold that for a specific day and time when it's ready now? Put it out into the world, get it out there. Let's not be perfectionists. And a few other things is, what would God or the universe want me to do? Would they want me to stress about this thing, or would they want me to let go? So if you're thinking and you're ruminating and you're, maybe you're like spiraling over, I don't know. I always think about this when it comes to guys. If you're spiraling over a guy and you're just like all up in your head, ask God, what would he have you do? What would the universe want you to do right now? What would the highest version of you be doing right now? Would they be sitting here stressing about this thing and spiraling, or would they be letting go? Would they be practicing the art of detachment? Or when it comes to making a decision, financial decision, coming back to the financial decision that I had to make in my life this past week, would God want me to sit by the sidelines and just let things go and take the easy way out? Or would God want me to take control, full control over my financial life and say, you know what? Nope, this is what we're doing. We're taking full control. We're taking the reins. We're doing this. We're pouring confidence within ourselves because we can do it. What would God want me to do? So that's going to be my mantra. That's going to be my little affirmation anytime that I get up in my head about things. And one last thing that I actually wanted to share, because I think it's also something that I've been having my mind come back to, of the truth of who I am anytime that I am second guessing or getting in my head about things. Because guys, I do get in my head. I've been sharing with you guys some of the things that I've been going through. I just pull myself out, and things get better and different, and I get stronger with being able to do these things. But of course, I'm not perfect. But recently I've been reading a new book by Marianne Williamson. I think this is her newest book. It's called The Mystic Jesus. And maybe I'll read the back. I love Marianne Williamson. Like, I've been saying that. I'll have all my book recommendations, by the way, linked down below on Amazon, especially this one. She's amazing. So about this book, The Mystic Jesus is a deeper alignment of heart and mind, redirecting human intelligence and reminding us of who we are. He was a historical figure, of course, but he is ahistorical as well. He was present as a man on the earth 2,000 years ago, and he is present as a spirit within our psyches even now. He is a name for the unalterable love that all of us share, out of which we were created and through which all of us are one. So I'm going to read two things. One, I'm going to quickly just read a little take that she has on the mystic Jesus. And as you could probably tell, this is more of a spiritual way of looking at Jesus and even God versus more of a traditional religious way of looking at Jesus. And if you don't resonate or you don't believe in this, that's fine. I believe everyone has their way of connecting to some sort of source, or maybe nothing at all. That's great. I don't judge you. You don't judge me. So the first thing, well, not the first thing, but it's just like a little highlighted part. She writes, the mystic Jesus is a universal Jesus, an aspect of nature itself. I experience the sun, but no one owns the sun. I experience the breeze, but no one owns the breeze. I experience love, but no one owns love. Natural forces can neither be contained nor propertied, and Jesus is a natural force. And this is how I look at God or believing in a higher power. No one set of people on earth own the right to believe in something, in my personal opinion. Okay, we all have different ways of connecting, but that's just basically exactly the way I look at it, and that is why I don't judge people for whatever they believe in. But let's go to what I kind of wanted to bring up. So she wrote here, God is an infinite ocean of love, not figuratively, but literally, of which we are a part of and from which we cannot be separated. We are in his mind and ideas never leave their source. And then this is what I highlighted. We have the power to forget what's true. So forget God, forget where we came from, forget our innate worthiness that we have always been from birth, but we don't have the power to establish what is true, which is that. She goes on to write, we are like children of the wealthiest, most powerful father who have forgotten our identity and the inheritance that comes with it. We wander endlessly in search of something that cannot be found, but only realized. And we're really talking about our self-worth, our ability to ask for more and to have abundance and to live our best life. We are constantly almost like looking for somebody to give us that affirmation or that acknowledgement or the ability to believe that we can have what we want or the access to something, the belief that we can have. No, it's about remembering what you always were. It's about stripping away all those limiting beliefs and all the trauma that was put on you before you came into this world and reminding that you always came from that wealthy father. And what she's speaking about with that wealthy father is love, is inherent worthiness of the things that you want in this life. So the times you're second guessing yourself, the times you're telling yourself, well, I don't know if I can have this, or I don't know if this is for me, or if I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or these people over here can have that, but I don't know about me. Nope. You came from the same source that you look at other people that have it, over here. Oh, well, she gets love or they're doing things. Nope. You as well. You just have forgotten and you have to remember. That's all it is. It's about remembering. How do you remember? You first understand that fear speaks loud and first, but that's not your truth. And underneath fear is your truth. And if you don't know what that is, what would God do? What would the universe have me do? What is the truth of what I came here to do? Most likely you have some sense of remembering. You have some sense of understanding that what you're telling yourself right now is a lie in a way. You know that because you're distressed. Right? When you're having a limiting belief, you don't feel good. You're feeling anxiety and you're like trying to get out of it. So understand that that is you, the spirit within you, recognizing that there's something off about this. This is not right. And you're right about that. Because that's not who you came here to be. That's not your spirit. That's not love. That's not abundance. It's not who you came here to be. So keep questioning that voice. And how you do that a lot of the times is you quiet your mind. You quiet your mind in the morning. You give yourself a second to breathe and think before you bombard yourself with a bunch of noise to distract you from your truth. You sit down and you take your journal and you write. You write to God, you write to spirit, you write to the universe, you write to your higher self, whatever. Sometimes I ask my mom to speak through me. I think that is easy for me to do because I know her voice and I know what she would tell me. And sometimes I need that voice, Sometimes I'm really good at just like telling myself what I need to hear, but there's something about having somebody who you look at as pure light and love that can help you. And for me, that is my mom. And that also is God. Like, God can do no wrong. The universe can do no wrong. The universe and God basically, like, they have the answers. They have the truth, things like that. Or my higher self has the answers. My higher self knows the truth. My higher self makes the right decisions, all that kind of stuff. Or even my mom. And so I kind of write through that consciousness and it completely recenters me. But if you don't have that practice, guys, if you don't have that practice, you are going to forget. You're going to forget because your fear is here to keep you safe, or it thinks it's keeping you safe by keeping you small. and telling you, nope, you shouldn't do that, or nope, you can't do that. But that's just your fear operating out of old limiting beliefs that were taught to you from people, places, and things that do not serve you, okay? So that is all I'm really going to say for today's Soulful Sunday Reset. I feel reset. I feel ready to take on this week. I feel like really having some more intention and focus and just a vision for the next week is really grounding me, and I feel excited, and I hope you guys do too. I really hope you guys take some time today after this episode or whenever, and you sit down and you really think about the intentions that you want to hold for the next week and the mantra that you want to hold for this week, and thinking about those cycles that you went through that past week maybe, and really reflecting on that, because if you don't bring it to light, you will unconsciously just keep living out that cycle. And if a cycle keeps happening, listen, if a cycle keeps happening and you're confused with life and why it's happening, I'm so sorry, but there's something that you are playing a role in. You are playing something out. But the way you're going to break that pattern is to bring it to light and give it to God. Give it to the universe. Give it to somebody. You don't need it. You don't need it. Remember your truth. So let me know how you guys like this episode. It will and can evolve based off of what you guys want to hear. Do you want me to add something else in? Do you want me to take something out? Let me know, please, in the comments. And also on Spotify, I pose a question. Please let me know. And don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And like I said, I'll have some episodes go out here and there when I feel inspired in terms of like a specific topic. But I think this is a good evolution. And again, every episode, like we're going to be talking about, I don't know how I'm going to really title these episodes, but the episode titles will probably have like the main themes of what I've talked about. So not every single episode is gonna be the same because, we be going through a lot. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.